Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me today are Jeff Ranke and Anna Wells. We're the editors of Manufacturing.net and Industrial Equipment News, and we each have more than 200 years of experience covering the manufacturing industry. Actually, you know what? I think that's only 20, Jeff. I think it's 20 years of experience doing more than 200 episodes, actually 250 episodes of this podcast covering the manufacturing industry. That's what I meant.
Good cover, David. Smooth.
Every week we cover the biggest stories in manufacturing and the implications they have on the industry moving forward. Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on Apple Podcast or whatever platform you use. If you want to email us, you can reach us at Jeff, David, or Anna at in.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube at IN Magazine so you can get a notification whenever we go live. Anna, it's almost like I haven't done this in 3 weeks and I forgot everything.
Yeah, we are. This one is going to be bad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes. Let's ring in the milestone episode 250 with our best effort.
Yes, or with our worst effort documented.
Yeah. Efforting, hashtag efforting, Jeff. But, you know.
The effort will be there. The result just may be lesser than.
Yeah. Normally I'm excited when the red light turns on. And then this one was panic. I was just like, what do we do? What do we do? But
Cold sweat.
Yeah, we'll find our legs. But no, you know, it's great to be back at the table with you guys. And honestly, it's it's a cool achievement. 250 episodes. Not a lot of people can say that. So
yeah, and our worst tease of an episode ever.
Tease?
Basically talking about how bad this is going to be.
Yeah.
Not great.
Buckle up. This will be terrible.
This is like my approach to everything professional and personal. Set the bar low. And then hopefully modest no, let's just clear the bar a little bit.
Okay.
We'll get over that.
All
right. Well, this week's episode is brought to you by Laserfiche. Generative AI is turbocharging modernization across the industrial sector by saving time, processing data, and increasing worker productivity during the implementation of new tools and technologies. This new paper from Manufacturing.net, How AI Tackles Manufacturing's Top 5 Implementation Challenges, gives you the 5 key areas throughout the industrial enterprise where Gen AI knocks over implementation hurdles. Download it right now. There is a link in the body copy and there is a link in the live chat. Our first story this week. Gen Z in manufacturing. Do young workers want to stay with one company or move on? In the latest episode of Gen Z in Manufacturing, Nolan Beilstein interviewed Gabe Schulz, a 25-year-old industrial engineer who has been working at Path Machining and Automation in Ramsey, Minnesota for about a year. About 18 months ago, Schulz moved to the land of 10,000 lakes and finished up his master's degree in industrial engineering. He applied to every engineering position that popped up and came up empty. So he decided to apply for a general operator position, just trying to get in the door with whatever shop would take him. He got his foot in the door at Path and wound up with a full-time engineering position. At the company, Schulz leads initiatives to optimize CNC machining operations, implement standardized processes, and improve unattended shift performance. Jeff, in this episode, Schulz discusses a lot of topics that we've heard from Gen Z before, like the importance of having real-world impact and what his generation can do to teach us old hats about AI. But I was a bit surprised when he also covered a topic that has been around since the regular workday began, finding a role you're happy with and staying put if you find it fulfilling.
Yeah.
What did you think about this episode?
It was interesting, and I think what I've learned in really watching Nolan's podcast, the Gen Z podcast, more is a lot of the principles when we talk about Gen Z and recruiting and retaining these types of work or these generation of workers. These things have been around forever. If you talk to your parents and they were in manufacturing, they always talked about finding something you enjoy. Loyalty's been created because the company cares about you and you can see the impact you're having, all of these things. But I think this generation has just gotten better at verbalizing it and really making it more visual and making it more of a, criteria, as opposed to just...
and demanding it.
Yeah, more of a job criteria as opposed to a wish list. I think
Yeah.
is kind of how that's evolved and changed. I think the thing that caught me initially too is he talked about this real world impact. He could see what he was working on, what it was actually doing. Having again the real world impact, and I think that's always been there as well. There just hasn't been a focus on making it so clear and connecting the dots a little bit more. I think as manufacturers have done that, they've opened themselves up to a new collection of workers that really embrace this. And as a result, I think there could be more loyalty going forward. There's always been a fair amount of transient elements in terms of engineering and manufacturing. But when you can see this and you feel like the company is investing in you and wants you to be there, all of a sudden, this doesn't become a job. It does become a career.
Yeah.
And again, these aren't new concepts, but I think we're just getting better at verbalizing them and putting them out there a little bit and then focusing on them as best practices.
Well, and I think making it a priority, right? That generational shift from, this is your job now, but you'll find something. You'll find something that you love, right? Just keep working at it. But in that sort of mentality, sometimes you could have gotten stuck and all of a sudden it's 10 or 20 years down the line and you're just like, all right, well, this is what I have. Whereas it's a priority. This is not working for me. I'm going to find something that does. Anna, Scholes works on a variety of projects. He actually said he walks in every morning and he's not really sure what he's going to be doing that day. But, he notes that he found it exciting, a lot of different projects. And his number one is value add. Like Jeff said, working towards a goal that will directly impact the company and the lives of his coworkers. I think that's refreshing, somebody that is a valued member of the team. And I don't think it's necessarily because of his age or anything in particular. He's just a valued member of the team. And as a result, he doesn't see this as a job anymore. He sees it as a potential career.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Nolan asked this question because you hear a lot about what Gen Z is doing and how they're more of a transient generation and how they like to job hop and they're not consistent or long-term employees. We hear that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of that is a bit of a
It's a stereotype.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a fair characterization.
Yeah.
I'm glad you used the term best practice because I feel like the more we talk about this, the more that needs to be emphasized when it comes to what does the workforce actually look like these days. So I looked at some data, a staffing agency, Starboard, it's called. They recently published some data around how long do different generations of workers typically stay at their first job?
Mm-hmm.
And what they said was that for entry-level or early career roles, the average is usually about 1 to 3 years. For Gen Z, the first job usually lasts between 1.8 and 2.3 years, compared to millennials, which is 2.75 to 2.9 years. So the difference between those two, I don't think is really... not very much, right? A year, maybe max. And then when you consider that millennials and Gen Z combined make up over half of the workforce today, then what are we talking about? Are we talking about this generation that we have to cater to because their needs and wants are different than the rest? Or are we talking about really a huge chunk of the workforce are doing this, right? And they're on the younger side. And so at some point, this becomes not an issue of what does Gen Z want or what do millennials want, but what does the workforce want, Yeah. And you have to kind of apply that, I think, unilaterally. And I appreciated, so his name was, I'm sorry, one more time.
Scholes. Yeah.
Gabe. Yeah.
Gabe Scholes, yeah.
He used terms when he talked about his job, like growth, skill development, career. I do think that when you listen to people like him speak, you have to understand as a leader in industry that it is kind of incumbent on you to create that work environment for folks if you want to keep them. It's not an issue of the hiring process is done, here's your training, now go.
Yeah.
That seems to be actually very problematic for people when they're sort of set loose into this, loose environment and they don't have guardrails or an idea of what their trajectory is, or they don't have a feel for what is their career growth path.
Yeah.
So I guess, instead of looking at Gen Z and Z being this sort of aberration within a larger workforce issue, and we have to cater to this. It's really a kind of a growing issue amongst all your people that you really need to address as a workplace.
Well, and I get it. I mean, we're talking about the difference of a year, but still, if you're thinking about a millennial worker hanging on for 2+ years and you maybe get a year and a couple of months with a Gen Z, that might seem like a big difference. And I also do like how you lump Gen Z and millennials in on the, quote, young end of the workforce. All of them, all millennials, even if you're at the dead beginning of it.
Yeah, I'm. My age group is referred to as elder millennial.
Oh no!
Which-
no, really?
It's fine. I'm
That's
not
a
in
real
love.
thing.
That's the thing.
Oh man.
It's like 80 to 84 or something.
God,
Yeah.
I was a geriatric parent. Now I'm an elder millennial.
Elder millennial.
Tough sledding, Jeff.
Not was, are.
Well, I guess
forever
good, I
you're
still
that.
have that.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that I also took from this is that talking about value add, right? I think that sometimes when people hear generic terms like they want to know that they're contributing, people think that there are these grandiose ideas. But I mean, he gave a really great example of how he basically took a normal workflow using micrometers to measure parts right out of the CNC, being a long and sort of laborious process for operators, and he automated that. You know, and it went from a really long and arduous process to a couple of minutes on an automated, I think, like vision system. So I thought that when he talks about using AI to automate toolpath strategies, these aren't huge swings that you need to take in order to give somebody real world impact. It's simplifying workflows. I found it encouraging when he, like I said, his original intention was to get some experience and kind of get out. But, he felt welcomed as part of the Path family and, wants to build a career there. And I also liked, he seemed very level-headed, right? Understanding about the job. Like one of the quotes I pulled was he said, you know what? Sometimes work is just work and you've got to get through it. So I thought that was just you know what? You're right. No matter how great your job is, you have those days where you're just like, come on, 4:30. And, sometimes, but he did mention that, especially probably as a salaried employee, he's willing to work late as long as the project is interesting. He also mentioned that he does prefer to be on the shop floor. And, when we also are talking about these sort of nebulous concepts like AI, right? He wants people to understand that, you don't need to understand AI right now, because right now you just need to understand the workflow. You need to understand maybe how AI actually works and its limitations. You don't need to be experts right now. You need to be evolving with it, though, and using it. And I think all of that is very valuable. I mean, Jeff, when you see, didn't that resonate with you? Just like, hey, you know what? Sometimes work is just work.
And Nolan was trying to get a little bit more out of him there, and talking about some of the things he enjoyed or things that kept him at this current position. And that's a very honest answer, obviously, in addressing that. And it is the case sometimes. But I think, again, what I took away from it was, even when it's just work, the things that the company he's working for was still doing things to show him that what he was doing was significant and important, and it had an impact.
Yeah.
So there's always an opportunity there.
True. I do think that there is sometimes this this belief that it's always going to be great. And, especially, and I do think that's part of that Gen Z stereotype, right? That, work, there's no expectation that work will ever be work or hard. And that's just not real.
Nope.
That's just not real. All right. Our next most popular story. Key takeaways from report on Tyson plant closure in Nebraska. It's a real barn burner of a headline. That's definitely a right before the holidays headline right there. Key takeaways.
Yeah.
Lexington, Nebraska is a small town in rural Nebraska. On January 20th, 2026, the town will lose its biggest employer, Tyson Foods. Tyson's beef plant will cut 3,200 workers, and this is in a town of 11,000. According to the AP, Lexington is expected to lose hundreds of families who will be forced to move away in search of other work. The exodus will likely cause major shifts, with total job losses expected to reach 7,000. This is according to a report from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Tyson is right-sizing its beef business after a historically low U.S. cattle herd. The company also expects a loss of $600 million on beef production next year. This plant opened in 1990. It was bought by Tyson around 2000 and has since attracted thousands of workers. Now it, quote, threatens to unravel a town where the American dream was still attainable. According to the report, this is a town in which immigrants who didn't speak English and never graduated high school could still buy homes, raise children in a safe community, and send them to college. Tyson workers, devastated by this closure, have no clear plan. And for many, finding another job isn't easy, particularly older workers who don't speak English. They haven't graduated high schools. Many are not computer savvy. And many are complaining that Tyson, quote, only wants young workers now. Tyson did offer a glimmer of hope, saying it is, quote, assessing how we can repurpose the facility within our own production network, though it didn't give any details or say whether it plans to offer support to the community. Tyson reportedly hasn't had to pay city taxes due to a deal negotiated years ago. Jeff, does Tyson owe the community a debt, or is it already paid?
I mean, I kind of feel like it goes the other way, to be honest.
Yeah.
I feel like we're entering a new age here where communities, especially when you're talking about a quarter of the population being employed at this one plant, and really if you look at the working workforce or the age of the workforce, I mean, that's probably half, right, of all working adults are at this Tyson facility. I think we're at a point now where the communities need to be more engaged with these companies and understanding what's going on from a market perspective. There's a lot of reasons that have gone into why this facility is being shut down in terms of the shortage of beef cattle and a lot of the different factors related to that. I think Lexington could have gotten ahead of this, maybe. Okay, yeah. I'm hypothesizing here. Maybe all these conversations took place and we don't know about them.
Yeah.
But as a case study or a best practice going forward, you do need to understand what Tyson is going through. What are the different market dynamics? What's going on with this screwworm deal in Texas? What's going on with Brazilian imports? How that's affecting basically, you know, again, half of your workforce or half of the taxpayers in your community and how that's going to impact all the trickle-down elements. Mm-hmm. We ran another article on this as well, talking about it from the town's perspective. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of testimonials in there talking about how it's going to impact where kids are going to school, how they can, what restaurants are staying open, what retail facilities are staying open. So when you look at it from that perspective as well, again, these reports are very intriguing and very interesting to look at, but we always see them after the fact. Mm-hmm. There needs to be a movement now to get out ahead of this stuff and understand it before it happens so that maybe the community can say, okay, Tyson, we know that these things are going on, but even though it's a longer cycle, it is a cycle. Yeah. Eventually, we're going to have more cattle. Okay, There's going to be more product flowing through that you're going to need a facility for. What can we do to sort of bide our time a little bit here? Yeah. What can we do to get these employees ready to do other things? Is there another business we can try to attract? That's where I think communities just need to evolve a little bit more and be ready for these types of situations, especially now when we've got a lot of economic factors that are out of the control of small towns. Yeah. There are things that are going on a much larger scale that always can't be fixed, right, but you need to be ready for them.
Well, this just to me was the prelude to how a town dies. You know, and unfortunately, I think sometimes from a municipal level, you think, what kind of incentives can you get to retain the business or attract it? But, you know, one of the things we also talk a lot about with businesses is diversification. And at some point, you need to realize you're a town that is beholden to this one company. And I think you're right. Maybe you do have to be more of a partner. And maybe you do need to also maybe diversify in terms of what you can offer in the area outside of just ancillary businesses, pretty much just catering to the workforce. Anna, when you were looking at this story, what were some of your takeaways? I mean, I understand that it's just, some of it is just simple market economics, right? It's when Tyson is right-sizing, we often talk about how the food, in particular meat processing industry, is a industry of very tight margins. So maybe there isn't that kind of wiggle room to bide time, as Jeff says, in order to keep the plant open until better times are coming.
Yeah, that was my thought, is I feel like that's maybe easier said than done when you look at how much leverage a town of 11,000 people actually has. It's not like they have a lot of working capital. They probably are barely scraping by in terms of services. I mean, that's often the case, right? If if the people who work at this plant are their primary tax base in the city, and it's hard for me to believe that they could have done anything had they gotten ahead of it. I don't know, maybe, but you're right when you talk about this factory town concept, because that was the first thing I thought of as well. It's like you look at back historically, this happened a lot more often than I think it does now.
Yeah.
But these cities that were built around one industry or one factory, and then as soon as that factory closes, that town completely collapses. And you've seen cities be able to reinvent themselves over the years, but it is hard. And especially in this case, when you look at a city like Lexington, which is in a relatively remote area. I mean, Nebraska's not super populous. And then you consider the lack of skill diversity in the area. You don't have a big population. Everybody works in meat processing. How do you lure in other companies to soften the blow for a potential future that this plant might pull out?
Yeah.
That's a hard prospect,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, the plant's been there for 35 years. You have a lot of folks that are, again, as the article mentions, immigrant workforce. I think the population of this town is like 60% Latino.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of challenges here in terms of like finding new work for these folks or bringing in other industries. I just don't think it's quite that easy. But the other thing that is interesting, and I know you mentioned it's cyclical, and it certainly is. Like that's what this report in the University of Nebraska at Lincoln was very comprehensive about some of the things that are going on here. According to that report, they say that Lexington, this plant, can slaughter almost 5,000 cattle per day, which is approximately 4.8% of total daily U.S. beef slaughter.
Yeah,
that's like
wild.
A huge chunk of the industry just at this one plant. That kind of blew me away. And they said that this marks the first time one of the big four meatpacking companies has permanently closed a major plant during the current cattle supply crunch. So that set off an alarm bell to me a little bit, considering like, it begs the question of why. What is it that they're seeing that makes them think that this is not something that they will come out of?
Yeah.
And I know that right now Americans are concerned about the price of beef. I think beef prices were up 15% in 2025. When actions like this by Tyson suggest some permanence here, that is concerning too, in terms of like, what can we expect? Because, they talk about the reasons that this is happening. So there was severe droughts the last couple of years, reduced the amount of cattle available. Input costs for ranchers are extremely high right now. Tariff issues, and then you have extremely high demand, I think, also that is going to cause the price of beef to continue to go up. That's also a concern. You know what I mean? So I know that I'm not trying to say like, I don't know what to do about this town situation. But I don't, it's just like, it's a terrible situation, and these people are getting the take the bag, left holding the bag.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. Like, and it's, when I read that statement, I felt like that was a statement that they kind of put out for like that glimmer of hope that really wasn't there to me. But it was like, does Tyson really think like, yeah, no, we're going to hold on to it. We're going to see if we can do anything with it. Is that them just like, yeah, well, it doesn't make sense to keep it open now, but we're going to maybe reopen it later.
I mean, maybe, but like, what does everybody do in the meantime? They like vacate the area, though. It's just not going to be a hospitable environment to reopen this plant in 2 years when everybody has left and this town is now deserted because no one is making any money.
Well, and did you think, so when they talk about sort of accusations of ageism, did you read into that at all? Because to me, it just seemed like these people were in these careers for a long time because it was kind of the only player in town. And it just so happened that a lot of them were long tenured and the plant was shuttered versus them just trying to become younger in terms of younger as a workforce.
I mean, maybe if they're trying to pay people less, they're looking for younger, more entry-level folks for that. But that was not my takeaway from this. I didn't feel like that was like a key driver of this. There are many very documented challenges facing the industry right now that, it makes sense. They're not having an easy time. They're projecting a $600 million loss this year.
It's not
it's not like
gotta
a
come somewhere.
it's not a far cry to like, look at cost cutting at that point. We understand that that's all going on. So I don't think it's ageism. Doesn't make sense to me. I think people are upset and they probably feel like they've been loyal to this plant for a very long time. And so they probably feel frustrated and they feel like they're taking this hit and it's unfair.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's because
that's where I get confused, because this is a huge shutdown and they're acting like it's a surprise. And if there is that ongoing dynamic, again, with a company that plays this big of a part in the town, this shouldn't be a surprise. There should be a greater level of transparency and understanding what's happening here.
Yeah. You mean there should be more of a conversation.
The community should be knowing what's going on there. And they're going to have to be proactive to do that. Tyson isn't going to come to them and say, hey, things ain't going great here.
Yeah. But I mean, so like, is that at what level is somebody just like, hey, we're kind of looking at the projections and it's not looking good. What are your thoughts? Or, I mean, I guess.
No, I think and again, this is something that's shifted over time and maybe it's not always an option. But again, when you look at the extent of Tyson's impact on this particular town, I think the community should have been talking to these folks once a month.
Yeah.
How are things going? What should we expect? What are things going on in your marketplace? How can we help? How can we be a better partner? And it's not about tax breaks.
Yeah.
It's not about tax incentives. It's about ensuring that Tyson's happy or not, and being able to prepare your citizens for if that plant goes away.
Well, and not just on the city level. I mean, even at a state level, like Nebraska should have been maybe ahead of this a little bit more, because I mean, I get it. When you're looking at Lexington, maybe you think it's too small to have that kind of relationship with Tyson, but at a state level, I mean, according to the Nebraska Examiner, via this report that we've been referencing, the statewide economic loss, this is direct and ripple effects, is estimated to be $3.28 billion a year. And the projected annual decline in state personal income tax revenue is estimated to be $23.2 million. State sales tax proceeds are going to slide by $10 million a year. When you're losing millions and billions of dollars statewide, I think that it's fair to think that the state could get involved as well, to just see what's going on, protecting its assets, especially as we see state to state communities getting more competitive in the market when it comes to earning other people's business. All right. Well, our most popular story this week was an interesting one. I actually really enjoyed this one. Cadillac Escalade can't stop turning its headlights on in odd auto mystery. The trouble started at night. It was 2 a.m., a neighborhood peacefully asleep, when the headlights of a parked Cadillac Escalade started flickering. A new mom reached out to her mechanic after she'd woken up to this seemingly cosmic Morse code. The pattern repeated night after night for about 2 weeks straight. No one touching the SUV, no prankster, just an all-American SUV performing its own private light show. It was an automotive mystery that left both owner and mechanics scratching their heads, according to a story from Guessing Headlights. When the owner brought the Escalade into the shop, the problem immediately disappeared. No warning signs, no diagnostic codes, nothing. Oddly enough, it was a service manager who simply asked, "Do you live near a power line?" Coincidentally, the manager had seen a similar mystery with a Porsche. While some hoped for a root cause in paranormal activity, it turned out to be electromagnetic interference. Electromagnetic fields from damaged or malfunctioning overhead electrical infrastructure can induce signals in nearby electronics. Modern vehicles have computers that control nearly every function that can all be sensitive to EM interference. The utility company actually repaired a blown transformer on that line, and once that fix was made, the light show was over. Mama can sleep again. Anna, the interference was strong enough to be interpreted by the Escalade's control systems as legitimate instruction to switch on exterior lighting. Do you find that troubling?
I mean, there's a lot I find troubling about how autos function these days. So I'm just going to put that in the basket, I guess. I don't know. For me, the biggest takeaway had to do with how this was uncovered by the maintenance tech. I thought that was like what made the story interesting to me. Maybe because like our perspective right now is that we're just being absolutely inundated with AI stuff and projections about how AI is going to effectively perform all these functions, and that like certain human generated skills are going to become obsolete. And I mean, I personally have the perspective that a very like a much smaller fraction of that will actually take place than what is being projected right now. But it's because of instances like these where someone has been doing something for a long time and they're relying kind of on their gut or their experience. Like it's an odd scenario. It's not in the manuals, but it sparks something in their memory and they're able to figure it out kind of on the fly like that. And I think this is the machine whisperer type stuff that manufacturers today are like begging for, despite all the technology that is even already currently available to them. They want and need these folks that have this innate skill, this tribal knowledge, and those people are hard to find. And we've covered some other weird stories over the years that I thought of when we ran this story. One, you guys will remember these, I'm sure, but do you remember the story about the Welsh town where the internet was getting knocked out every morning? It was like the broadband was getting knocked out every morning because somebody was firing up this old tube TV. And it was running interference. But anyway, who figured that out? An engineer in that town. Another time there was an inventor in Ohio who built their own homemade security system, and it crashed a frequency that was causing everyone's garage doors and key fobs to not work. And the detective in that case was an electrician. So I score a point for the human brain. I was that was like when I saw it, I was like, yes. I mean, it was like it felt like a good win. It felt good.
Well, it was so I felt the same way, and I guess the contrarian argument to that is that's like, this is an example of the limitations of AI right now, right? Like everyone believes that they can put all the codes into AI and it will diagnose this problem and be able to find every problem, but it won't. But however, overall, when you have all of this information into AI, like that particular instance with the Porsche would be in there, and then the model would be able to trace a similar instance and diagnose it.
Right, but none of that information, I mean, all that information has to be plugged in.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, like more long-term.
Is it all there? Is the information there? Like
it is now, because you have a historian element to any real software. Okay, so you can plug in these types of things, but AI in this case, it's not taking into every element of the environment. Okay, you can't plug in what's the proximity to wire, overhead wires. That's just not something that would be considered.
Not now, but you could eventually. You could imagine a time when you could say make, model, and location of problem, and then it could trace it.
But where does that start? It starts with, as Anna has alluded to, a human being figuring something out.
Correct.
AI still does not think for itself. As much as you want it to.
No.
As much as you want to bow to the overlord.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it is representative of where it is now versus where it could be if we continue to feed good information into the engine. However, in our immediate, in the right now, we're not feeding good information into the engine, and we're getting a lot of garbage out as a result.
And I would say, too, that I know that the software is capable of housing this information, but a lot of manufacturers do not have it. Like, it is not there.
Yes. I mean, we're all step one. Not even step one. We're step zero here. That's all I'm saying. But so, Jeff, okay, as automotive becomes more electrified, I mean, shouldn't we be prepared to design for electromagnetic interference? I mean, especially as we get more electrified and we have this crumbling infrastructure. I mean, of course, as we evolve with any technology, things break, and you're going to understand why things break and how they break, and then how to fix them. And then ideally how to design around those things so it doesn't happen again. So it's all building on one another, as you just said. I think the thing that stood out to me, in addition to everything you guys have just mentioned in terms of the intuitiveness of these technicians and figuring it out, is just this continuous evolution of the skills trades. You know, Anna and I were both working in the automotive side of things,
little bit of time ago, and it was very important at that point to get away from the term mechanic. These were not mechanics; these were automotive technicians.
Yeah.
To more accurately reflect the amount of training they have, the amount of expertise they have, the fact that they're not just in there getting up to their elbows in grease and oil. They understand all of the different systems, the electrical systems, the fuel systems, the engine, all of those things that are now part of these modern marvels of automotive technology. So it reinforced how important that stuff is becoming, and how we can look at these types of situations to sort of champion folks coming out of high school to get involved in the trades, because you're not just doing the same old stuff. You're getting some pretty interesting puzzles to put together here.
Well, and how as you put together those puzzles, the tools in the bag change, right? And then the people that use them change, and it's that evolution that is interesting. As part of the industry recover, right? They have been trying to innovate out the human error and the problems with the loss of tribal knowledge, and I don't think there's one part of the industry that they've figured it out. We're still working on it. We're we're still doing webinars about how webinars and white papers about how you walk into a plant and there are all these sensors everywhere and cameras to try and figure out where there are inefficiencies and leaks, and they can't do it. And you have the guy come in and he's just like, it's over there.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's wild. And it's just, I think that's why it's a representation of how far people think we are with AI versus where we actually are with AI. And, trying to replace those skills that are still unreplaceable. All right. Before we jump into, in case you missed it, we have another word from our sponsor, Laserfiche. This week's episode is brought to you by Laserfiche. Generative AI is turbocharging modernization across the industrial sector by saving time, processing data, and increasing worker productivity during the implementation of new tools and technologies. This new paper from manufacturing.net, how AI tackles manufacturing's top 5 implementation challenges, gives you the 5 key areas throughout the industrial enterprise where Gen AI knocks over implementation hurdles. So download it right now. There's a link in the body copy. There is a link in the live chat. All right. In case you missed it, stories that weren't as popular on the website, but could still make a big impact on the industry going forward. I'll go first this week. My story was Samsung Biologics to open first U.S. manufacturing plants in Maryland. Last week, South Korean biotech company Samsung Biologics announced plans to open its first U.S. manufacturing facility in Rockville, Maryland. Earlier this month, contract manufacturer Samsung Biologics America, the company's wholly owned, I just can't get it.
Biologics.
I just can't. Yeah, Samsung Biologics.
Capra Sun.
The company's wholly owned U.S. subsidiary acquired GSK's Human Genome Sciences manufacturing facility in Rockville for $280 million. The company plans to expand the site's current capacity and upgrade the technology to support a growing demand for critical biological medicines. Samsung plans to retain more than 500 jobs currently at the site and create additional new ones. I picked this story because this new U.S. facility is going to include expanded drug substance manufacturing capacity and be able to handle both clinical and commercial production. I also chose this story because I thought it was a really interesting follow-up to a delegation in April. So Governor Wes Moore led a Maryland delegation to Japan and South Korea to promote economic growth and workforce development. He addressed 2 of Korea's largest business organizations, meeting with this company in Seoul, and as a result, there is a significant foreign direct investment. And it has been a big year for foreign direct investment for Maryland. Last month, AstraZeneca, I might as well butcher that one too, AstraZeneca announced a $2 billion investment to expand manufacturing in the state. Korean biotechnology company NatureCell announced plans to open a stem cell manufacturing facility in Baltimore. That's going to create 500 new jobs. And an Indian pharmaceutical developer, Syngene International, is launching its first U.S. manufacturing site in Baltimore, creating 300 jobs. I picked this story because it was this development of this whole life sciences sector that wasn't on my radar. I thought it was really cool. And I think that a lot of times when you see these delegations go to foreign countries looking for foreign direct investment, you think it's a PR stunt. And so when there is actual fruit that comes from that, I think that it's good to shine a light on that, hey, the governor's working for the state and he's bringing a lot of jobs and investment to the state. Jeff, butchering the name aside, no. It was in my brain and I couldn't say it, but it's okay. It's okay. I mean, we could redo it, but why bother? But what were your thoughts on this story and the fact that I probably will never say that company name again?
Well, Samsung Biologics. I don't
Being
a contract manufacturer, this makes a ton of sense. That's been going on for the last decade in pharmaceutical manufacturing. More use of contract manufacturers because it keeps costs down. So basically, you've got somebody who's developing the drug, the big pharma company buys all their research and then outsources the manufacturing. A lot of this manufacturing was actually going to Canada. It was going to Puerto Rico. It was going places not within the continental U.S. So to see this type of job development here is outstanding. It's fantastic. And these are the types of jobs that you do build careers around. We're talking about with the Gen Z podcast. This guy was looking for a career. He applied for a job. He ended up finding a career. That's what these types of positions are.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stability for it for the surrounding community. So this is just a win on numerous levels. This is a lot of great stuff. And at the heart of it as well, in theory, depending, there's humans involved, so you can't guarantee this is going to happen, but this helps reduce costs for drug development and hopefully costs of these drugs as well at some point. Just a lot of very, very positive stuff going on here in one geographic area. Pretty interesting.
In one area where I am the most optimistic about the role AI will have, drug development, drug discovery. I think that it'll have a huge role in it, but that's a story for another time. So Anna, when you look at this story from Samsung Biologics, which is exactly how you say the name.
Correct.
What are your thoughts? I mean, I know that we covered the news from AstraZeneca's massive investment, but some of the other companies coming to the state, those were not on my radar. I was kind of surprised to see this much going on.
Yeah, I know. And it's just not a great time for any announcement because everyone is checked out at the time of year. But it is January now, and we're going to talk about it.
That's right. January, back to news.
Back to reality. I was excited to see this as well. It also was under my radar. I did not see it. But I think Jeff made a lot of the points that I was going to make, which is biotech and pharmaceutical. This is stable industry for whatever region gets it. This is a segment of manufacturing that didn't exist for a really long time, and now so I feel like it's all up from here, and so it's a good one to get. So the area will definitely benefit from this. I know that Baltimore, that as a community has really shifted in terms of industry over the years, and so it's nice to see this very modern, very clean tech type facility that you mentioned from Nature Cell.
Yeah.
Going in there, and then as well these other plants in the surrounding communities.
Well, I just felt it important to commemorate the 250th episode, going back to where we started with my inability to say a company or brand name. Anna, what is your, in case you missed it this week?
Was that by design?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Deepest of cuts.
Yep. I picked a story about Jim Beam and how the bourbon maker is closing a Kentucky distillery for a year, just 1 year.
Yeah.
So basically, Jim Beam is halting production at one of their distilleries in Kentucky for a year, at least a year, they're saying, as the whiskey industry tries to navigate the tariffs that have come down, and also what has sort of been a slump in demand for a product that really needs a lot of aging before it can come to market. Typically about 4 years of aging is the process before they can actually sell it. So it's a lot of, money in those barrels. So Jim Beam said the decision to pause bourbon making at its Claremont location in Kentucky in 2026 will give the company time to invest in improvements at the distillery. They said that there's not going to be any layoffs. They're going to reassign their employees to other functions within the company right now. But obviously there's a lot going on for whiskey. Whiskey makers are dealing with these kind of back and forth tariffs. between what's going on in Europe and Canada. 95% of all bourbon in the U.S. comes from Kentucky, and the amount of like the decrease in exports to Canada this past year was like 85%. It was very bad. But yeah, a trade group is estimating that the industry brings more than 23,000 jobs and $2.2 billion to the state of Kentucky alone. So I thought this was an interesting story to add to the discussion today, because we had this earlier chat about like a factory town. Well, this is like an industry that is absolutely critical to Kentucky's economy. Many states have these, right? They have their Idaho's potato industry. I mean, like everybody, they have them. They have like a very prominent influence on that local economy. The result of the uncertainty that's facing this industry has been crazy and interesting. And I thought it was really interesting that Jim Beam was able to be idle for so long and undertake this without layoffs. And to me, that was the biggest question, is like, how are they operating their business? Are they just diversified enough that they are able to kind of take this in stride and say, hey, we're going to take a beat on this operation. We're going to update it. We're not going to we saw this also. I don't know if you guys remember that story about when Jaguar was kind of in the middle of figuring out like the EV transition, and they were like, we're going to stop making cars for a year.
Just putting a pin in it.
And it's like
business.
Right. And there's so many manufacturing businesses that would be absolutely decimated with even like a month of idle.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what's happening here with Jim Beam, and I'm not sure what the results of this will be. When they say at least a year, that's a little bit unnerving.
Yeah.
To see, will the industry bounce back? Will the tariffs change? I don't know.
Well, and I had actually over the break, I had a lot of conversations about how Gen Z just doesn't drink like previous generations, and how the demand for products like Jim Beam is going to possibly continue to go down, as well as like the real impact that this sort of fight with Canada has had on the entire industry. And I had a couple of conversations about, will that ever come back? Because it has sort of reinvigorated this pride in Canadian products where, those shelves remain empty in a lot of places. And will that ever come back?
Right.
And if it does come back, what'll it look like? I don't know. Jeff, when you looked at this, were you surprised to see, this was like, wasn't it an award-winning distillery that's all of a sudden down for a year?
Well, I think what surprised me is this is kind of a household brand.
Yeah.
This isn't Jaguar's very kind of a niche buy. Even some of the other distilleries we've seen, bourbon distilleries shut down, it's Buffalo Trace, which is a little bit higher tier spirit, but this is a very popular one. So to see them shut down, and they make Jim Beam here. This is what they do.
Yeah.
So it is surprising to think that there would be enough inventory out there to support the product for a year. As far as where it's going to go with a lot of these, I think everything is cyclical. It really does run. Right now, maybe this product isn't as in demand by the youth or the next coming of age, if you want to say, but it all circles back.
Yeah.
And at some point, I think it's just established. But it is interesting to see something that was putting out this much quantity of product to be shutting down for a year. It's pretty dramatic. It is interesting in its operation, though. It's still got a big warehousing operation. There's like a restaurant and thrift store or theme store,
tasting room or something.
Ooh, yeah. Thrift store. I like the idea.
Not
of
a thrift store. Yeah, thrifty bourbon. Yeah, right.
No, that's I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see what does happen. Hey, every generation's still gonna need a crutch, right? Like some sort of help. You got to decompress. You got to unwind at the end of the day. Somehow they can't all be at CrossFit, can they? Jeff, what is your, in case you missed it this week?
I picked a story talking about Walmart and other U.S. companies wanting to build a pipeline of skilled tradespeople. And this caught my eye for a couple of reasons, because when you think of Walmart or Target or any big retailer, you think of the transactional nature of their business. It's people stocking shelves. It's people at checkouts. Well, obviously, these are huge logistics operations as well. Huge warehouses. Go past the Walgreens distribution center outside Sun Prairie there. just everything that's involved there. They were talking about, at Walmart, if the refrigeration goes down, they're losing $500,000 in product. So they need skilled tradespeople. So they've basically developed their own training programs to help Walmart develop their own core of engineers, basically, to help solve a lot of these problems. So they're bringing folks in, identifying them, training them, bringing them in, getting up to an average annual starting salary of like $33 an hour, which is a pretty good start, I would think. It's just kind of interesting, too, because they highlighted a lot of the things in the article that are still going on with a lot of the skilled trades. McKinsey said that they analyzed 12 different types of trade job categories, including maintenance technicians, welders, and carpenters, and predicted an estimated imbalance of 20 job openings for every one net new employee.
Wow.
From 2022 to 2032. There's also an extraordinary rate of chum, which is basically the turnover, could cost companies more than $5.3 billion. Churn, excuse me.
Okay.
$5.3 billion every year in talent acquisition and training costs. Yeah. So basically, they're losing folks to other places in order to replace them. Yeah, just a huge issue. So Walmart is going out of their way to train folks. They've got something like 400 people that are going through their training program right now. I thought it was pretty extraordinary and pretty unique way to approach the skills gap issue that we keep talking about. Yeah. So for a lot of other manufacturers who can scale at that level, definitely something to look at here.
Yeah, almost 400 employees already graduated from the program. The goal is to put 4,000 workers through by 2030. That is wild. And I mean, I agree with Walmart CEO Doug McMillon, who says a lot of these shortages are a lack of awareness. And that's not just an awareness of the job opening, but what the job is and does. I mean, I think when you talk about having value and workers who want value, if you know that your value is that if a refrigeration system goes down at a store, it costs up to $400,000 worth of lost product. That's pretty good value, making sure that all the kids in the community eat because they won't eat anything other than fries and chicken tenders. And when you looked at Walmart kind of taking this role, other U.S. companies taking this role in training these types of workers, what were your thoughts?
Well, interesting, I think, that it's Walmart, because if you look back about 10 years, the big refrain from Walmart and then kind of industry-wide was Walmart is replacing its employees with robots and gig workers. That was like the plan, right? And I know that these are different functions than, working a checkout or stocking a shelf or what have you. But it, to me, was sort of ironic that suddenly Walmart is like, hey, we have a skills problem, that maybe we can't solve everything with automation and robotics and gig workers. And because I know Walmart has a huge problem with this sort of like rotating, door of people coming in and out. They have a really high turnover. They've kind of established a reputation for that. And so I think trying to change that perception in the market is probably going to be key for them in order to recruit folks that have these skills that they really need. So it's a good idea, I think, to go turn inward and figure that out on your own.
Well, and for me personally, like some of it's got to be because it's a good career. If you spend your career with Walmart and you grow through the ranks, it can be a very lucrative place for you to be. But I will say that when I was there, it was almost like the stigma of being a Walmart employee.
Wait, you worked at Walmart?
Can you believe it? Can you believe it? It was actually one of my longer tenures.
I need like a timeline. Yeah. Because I'm a little older than you. We're close in age though. Yeah. Ish. You've had like 45 jobs, I feel like. And we worked together for like 20 years.
Yeah, no, so
none of them were
basically I've had like 40 jobs. I had like 35 of them before we met, and we've had like the other 5 together.
Man.
Yeah, no, it was, but it was, and I enjoyed it. There were benefits where you could buy stock with your paycheck, and the pay was fine. The work was good. But it was, at the end of the day, you're just like, well, that would be a great career for somebody, but I don't want that to be my career.
Yeah, but don't you think that Walmart has played a role in also creating
Completely
that
agree.
stigma.
No, that's what I'm. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to reinforce is that like they created that, and they certainly didn't make you feel valued. They're like, hey, if you stick around, it can be good, but maybe you don't. It wasn't exactly like employee retention plan at the moment.
Right.
But yes, so now you know about 10 of the 40 jobs that I've had. We'll get into it.
All right.
We cover a lot of industries.
See some W-2s.
It was, man, actually, yeah, I probably got to shred that file. Like, how long are you supposed to hold on to documents? It's been too long. No, well, before we get out of here this week, let's do our final thoughts. Anna, what's your final thought this week?
I'm not much of a New Year's resolution type person, although setting goals I think is good when you can.
Yeah.
This year I've decided that January tends to be my least favorite month of the year because it's always freezing in Wisconsin and the holidays are over and there's just a lot of work and not that much to do.
Yeah.
But I decided this year I'm going to try to not rush through January with my head down and actually enjoy some of the things I do like reading inside when it is freezing cold. And
Are we going ice fishing?
I did not say that.
But maybe.
But I will smile when you tell me about it.
Oh.
If that's something.
When you had the pregnant pause, I thought you were just going to be in that's it.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, and I normally hate this month.
The end.
David? Yeah. No, I get that. But it was actually having the time off, other than me losing every ability to perform on this podcast. It was nice to be with the family and just realize the importance of slowing down.
Yeah.
I guess kind of piggybacking on that, my first final thought is just, hey, 250 episodes. That's incredible. We did it. And it's great. And we kicked the rust off by the third story. And then I just put it all back on in time for in case you missed it. But it's been incredible. And it's a real accomplishment. I think we should all be proud of that.
Well, don't feel too bad. I did say chum instead of churn.
That's okay. So, well, no, like at first I thought that was a real term. And I'm like, whoa, that is dark.
That is just my tired eyes misreading something off of a screen.
They're just chopped up fish pieces
Yeah, the
for the bigger animal.
The blood, mostly the blood.
Ooh.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Like but enjoying, I was just having another conversation with somebody about this, about how, we had enough time off that it was like, you're always in a rush to do something and have quality time with your kids and have experiences. And it was just nice to sit down and be like, you know what? What if we watched another movie?
Yeah.
That would be okay.
Absolutely.
And, I tell my kids how to floss. I don't think it's going to stick. I think we might need to readdress that a couple of times. But it was a lot of good quality time where, hey, do you want to go sledding? Yeah, let's go sledding for like 20 minutes out back. It was just, it was great to kind of slow down and appreciate the quiet moments, right? And not like, and we didn't have to. It's not like any reason in particular. It was just, we don't have to do anything today. We got a lot of them in. We went roller skating, and I'm still standing, so that's pretty good. We pretty much did everything except going to the zoo, and it seemed like I was the only one that wanted to do that because apparently a zoo in sub-zero temperatures, and everyone's like,
Not that
"Oh."
cool, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, well, you just run building to building. You can still see the chimp house. Anyway, it was a great time off, and again, congratulations, producer Eric. Thank you. Thank you for everybody that helps us put this together. I'm really proud of it. I think we do a great job. Jeff, your final thoughts this week.
So I got a wonderful Christmas gift, but it's been kind of interesting to see people's reactions because either they're like me and they get pretty excited about it. They're just like, what? Why? So if I told you I got a parts washer for Christmas, see Anna's reaction? That's half.
Yeah.
The other half is like when I told the chiropractor, she's like, oh, yes, that's awesome, which it is.
Yeah.
It is awesome.
Like one of those like vibratory parts.
No. It's just a flow through with the detergent, the brush.
Yeah.
Big kind of like just a cabinet
what
for cleaning
parts-
stuff off. I love it.
For cleaning
What
stuff.
parts are you washing?
All sorts of stuff.
Give me one part you gotta
I
wash.
cleaned up a bunch of tools.
Oh,
I already
okay.
used it. I'll use it when I have to take the hubs off my boat trailer.
Oh, okay. All right.
Got to clean the seals and pack the bearings.
I didn't know that you were,
Oh, you can use this for anything. It's awesome.
I had no idea.
Taking rust and stuff off.
Oh,
Great.
man.
Okay, I got to look
See,
at the
this
list.
is the thing. You either like this or like when I told producer Eric, he was pretty excited about it too.
Well, once I know the list of items that can be cleaned, perhaps I will see an opportunity. And I'll be like, oh!
But otherwise, you're more like Anna going, really? You bought a sink with a hose?
I mean,
I already have a
Right.
sink.
Yeah.
I didn't get one for Christmas because I have like a couple, actually.
yeah.
But I think it's awesome.
No, I mean, but I think that's indicative of where you are. Like, I mean, one of my favorite gifts, actually, it was for my birthday. It was high quality flannel, you know?
Well, who doesn't like a flannel shirt?
Exactly. But it's just like,
High quality.
they're just
flannel.
like, actually, yeah, because it's a real thing. It's a real thing.
All right.
Like, there's a huge spectrum of flannel out there. And once you get on that high end, you're just like, oh.
David, it's from LL Bean.
Oh, no. It's from Dixon, and it's a way different.
Let's also remember David has like 6 shirts.
I'm expanding. I've got like
I'm
12
not being
now.
I'm just, you know,
Yeah. No.
It's fine.
I think maybe even a baker's dozen.
Attaboy.
All right. Well, before we get out of here and we get recommendations as to how else to use this parts washer, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at in.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. And subscribe to us on YouTube at IN Magazine so you can join us whenever we go live, which will be this Thursday. We'll be back live on Thursday, regular schedule. Getting back into that new year, 2026. Guys, I already put the wrong date on an official form. It's a new year. All right. For Jeff Ranke and Anna Wells, I'm David Manti. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast, and I will see you next week.